The date is February 19, 1942. The time is 9:58 a.m. The air raid sirens in Darwin begin to wail, but it is already too late. High above the Timor Sea, a swarm of 188 Japanese aircraft, launched from 4 aircraft carriers, descends on the tropical capital of Australia's north. Within minutes, the harbor is an inferno. The USS Peary is sinking, engulfed in flames. The ammunition ship MV Neptuna explodes with a force that shakes the ground miles away. The post office is flattened. Hundreds of civilians and servicemen are dead. It was the Pearl Harbor of Australia. It was the moment the war came to our doorstep. For a generation of Australians, the sight of the rising sun flag meant death, destruction, and the terrifying prospect of invasion. The fear was visceral. The hatred was real. Now cut to the present day. 2026. Stand on the same wharf in Darwin Harbor. Look out at the shimmering turquoise water. Gliding silently past the ghosts of the sunken ships is a massive slate-gray warship. It bristles with phased array radars. Its deck is packed with vertical launch missile cells. On its stern flies the rising sun flag. But the air raid sirens aren't wailing. The Australian shore batteries aren't firing. Instead, the crew of the Royal Australian Navy frigate docked nearby is standing at attention, saluting. This is the JS Maya. It is one of the most advanced warships on the planet, and it is not here to bomb Darwin. It is here to save it. This is the ultimate twist of the 21st century. The nation that once tried to burn Darwin to the ground is now the nation providing the high-tech shield to protect it. The mortal enemy has become the indispensable brother. How did we get here? How did the geopolitical chessboard flip so completely that Japanese destroyers are now the guardians of the Australian coast? Welcome to Doctrine of War. Today we are telling the story of the greatest redemption arc in military history. Here is the thesis for this episode. The only thing stronger than the memory of war is the necessity of survival. China's rise has forced the Pacific democracies to bury the hatchet. Beijing has achieved what no diplomat could. It has united the samurai spirit of Japan with the Anzac grit of Australia. We are going to break down the floating Aegis, the massive Japanese destroyers that provide the ballistic missile defense Australia lacks. We are going to look at the JS Izumo, the aircraft carrier that Japan swore it would never build, operating F-35s alongside the RAF. And we are going to analyze the Reciprocal Access Agreement, the legal treaty that effectively merges our forces. This isn't just a feel-good story about forgiveness. This is a story about cold, hard strategic power. The West realized that to hold the line in the Pacific, we needed the Japanese Navy. We needed their mass, their technology, and their discipline. If you're ready to understand why the defense of Darwin depends on a ship built in Yokohama, hit that like button and subscribe to Doctrine of War. We investigate the alliances that keep the wolves at bay. The day the sky fell. To understand the magnitude of seeing a Japanese destroyer in Darwin today, you have to understand the trauma of 1942. Darwin isn't just a city, it is a scar on the Australian psyche. During World War II, it was bombed 64 times. The Japanese Imperial Navy controlled the waters to the north. They severed Australia's lifeline to the UK and the US. They threatened to isolate the continent entirely. For decades after the war, the resentment lingered. The idea of Japanese troops setting foot on Australian soil was political suicide. It was unthinkable. The Returned and Services League, RSL, would have rioted. But geopolitics does not care about feelings. It cares about threats. In the 2010s and 2020s, a new threat emerged on the horizon. A threat larger, wealthier, and more ambitious than Imperial Japan ever was. The People's Republic of China began militarizing the South China Sea. They built artificial islands. They began sending spy ships to monitor Australian exercises. They developed the DF-26 Guam killer missile, capable of striking Darwin from the Chinese mainland. Strategic planners in Canberra and Tokyo looked at the map. They realized they were the two anchors of the Pacific. Japan in the north, Australia in the south. Both are US allies. Both are democracies. Both are island nations reliant on maritime trade. And both were facing the same bully. The logic of alliance became undeniable. The ghost of 1942 had to be laid to rest, because if it wasn't, the ghost of 2030 would be Chinese occupation. The RA Revolution. The turning point came with the signing of the Reciprocal Access Agreement, RAA. This is a boring name for a revolutionary treaty. Before the RAA, if Japan wanted to send troops to Australia for training, it was a bureaucratic nightmare. Every soldier needed a visa. Every weapon needed a permit. It was treated like a civilian visit. The RAA changed the legal status of the Japanese Self-Defense Force (JSDF). It created a standing permission. It means Japanese troops can enter Australia with their weapons, vehicles, and ships as easily as US Marines can. It allows for high-end warfighting integration. Now we see Japanese F-35s deploying to RAF Base Tyndall. We see Japanese amphibious brigades training with the Australian Army in Queensland. And most critically, we see the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force (JMSDF) making Darwin a regular port of call. This is a message to Beijing. It says, "You tried to divide us by playing up historical grievances. You failed. The past is dead. The alliance is alive." When the JS Kaga or the JS Maya pulls into Darwin, they are not just refueling. They are integrating. They are plugging their data links into the Australian grid. They are learning how to defend this port. The symbolism is powerful, but the utility is what matters. Japan brings capabilities to the table that Australia simply does not have. And that brings us to the missiles. The missile shield gap. Let's be brutally honest about the Royal Australian Navy (RAN). It is a quality force, but it has gaps. And the biggest gap is integrated air and missile defense, IAMD, against ballistic missiles. The Australian Hobart-class destroyers are excellent ships. They have the Aegis combat system. But there are only 3 of them. And they are primarily equipped for local area air defense, shooting down aircraft and cruise missiles with the SM-2. Australia does not currently have a robust capability to shoot down high-altitude ballistic missiles, the kind that China would fire at Darwin to knock out the fuel reserves in the US bomber bases. We are buying the technology, but it takes time. Japan, on the other hand, lives under the shadow of North Korean nuclear missiles every single day. Because of this, they have built one of the most formidable missile defense fleets in the world. Enter the Maya-class destroyer. The ship is a beast. It displaces 10,000 tons, significantly larger than the Australian Hobart class. It is packed with 96 vertical launch system (VLS) cells. Crucially, the Maya class is equipped with the SM-3 Block IA missile. This is not a normal anti-aircraft missile. This is a hit-to-kill kinetic interceptor designed to fly into space. It intercepts ballistic missiles in their mid-course phase, outside the Earth's atmosphere. It hits a bullet with a bullet at 15,000 miles per hour. When a Japanese Maya-class destroyer sits in the Timor Sea off the coast of Darwin, it creates a dome of protection that stretches for hundreds of kilometers. It can knock down a Chinese DF-26 missile before it even re-enters the atmosphere over the Northern Territory. Australia effectively borrows this capability. By hosting the Japanese ships, we get the benefit of their $2 billion investment in missile defense. We get a shield we didn't have to build. One shared brain. But it's not just about the missile, it's about the data. Modern warfare is network-centric. This is where the samurai shield becomes truly futuristic. The Japanese destroyers and the Australian Defence Network share a brain, called Cooperative Engagement Capability, CEC. Imagine this scenario. An Australian F-35A Lightning II is flying patrol 500 kilometers north of Darwin. It detects a low-flying Chinese cruise missile skimming the waves, heading for the port. The F-35 sees the target, but it is out of missiles. Or perhaps it wants to stay silent to avoid detection. Using the CEC network, the Australian pilot beams the tracking data instantly to the Japanese destroyer JS Higuro sitting in the harbor. The Japanese ship cannot see the missile with its own radar because of the curvature of the Earth. But it trusts the data from the Australian jet. The Japanese commander authorizes a launch. An SM-6 missile roars out of the vertical launch cells of the Japanese ship. It flies over the horizon, guided by the Australian pilot's data, and intercepts the target. The Australian pilot provided the eyes. The Japanese ship provided the fist. This level of integration, where fire control data is shared seamlessly between nations, is the gold standard of alliance warfare. It means that attacking Darwin isn't just attacking Australia, you have to overcome the combined sensor and shooter network of the entire alliance. Japan brings the density of fire, the magazine depth, that Australia lacks. Australia brings the geographic depth and the air cover. Together, they are exponentially more dangerous than they are apart. The aircraft carrier that isn't. If the destroyers are the shield, the Izumo is the hidden sword. For decades, Japan's pacifist constitution forbade the possession of offensive weaponry. Aircraft carriers were explicitly banned. They were seen as tools of imperial aggression, the weapons that attacked Pearl Harbor and Darwin. So, when Japan built the Izumo class in the 2010s, they called them helicopter destroyers. They claimed they were for anti-submarine warfare and disaster relief. It was a polite fiction. Everyone knew what they were. They were flat tops. They had elevators designed to lift fighters. They had heat-resistant decks. In the 2020s, the pretense was dropped. As China launched its own carriers, the Liaoning, Shandong, and Fujian, Japan announced it would modify the Izumo and its sister ship Kaga to operate the F-35B Lightning II, the short takeoff and vertical landing (STOVL) variant of the stealth fighter. Japan has aircraft carriers again. But unlike 1942, these carriers are not steaming south to conquer. They are steaming south to integrate. When the JS Izumo docks in Darwin, it is often carrying US Marine Corps F-35Bs. It is training to operate alongside the Australian amphibious ships HMAS Canberra and Adelaide. This transforms Darwin from a target into a power projection hub. Power projection south. Why bring a carrier to Darwin? Strategic depth. In a war over Taiwan, Japanese naval bases in Yokosuka and Sasebo will be under heavy fire. They are within easy range of Chinese missiles. Darwin is safer. It is further away. It allows the Japanese fleet to disperse, refuel, rearm, and launch counterattacks from a secure flank. By operating out of Darwin, the Japanese Navy can help secure the vital trade routes through the Indonesian archipelago, the Lombok and Makassar Straits. These are the lifelines for Japanese oil. If those straits close, Japan starves. So, defending Darwin is actually defending Tokyo. The site of the Izumo operating off the coast of the Northern Territory is the ultimate signal of the Indo-Pacific concept. It links the Northeast Asian Theater, Japan/Korea, with the Southeast Asian Theater, Australia/ASEAN. It forces China to split its attention. They can't just focus on the first island chain. They have to worry about a combined fleet operating from the south, capable of striking their flank. The irony is thick enough to cut with a knife. The majestic flat-top ship in the harbor, launching fighters into the tropical sky, is Japanese. But this time the RAF air traffic controllers are clearing them for takeoff, not sounding the alarm. The irony of history. We often talk about shared values in diplomacy. It's a buzzword. But in Darwin it is tangible. Walk through the city. You can visit the bunkers where oil storage tanks were destroyed in 1942. You can see the bullet holes in the old buildings. The memory of the Empire of Japan is carved into the stone. But then look at the harbor. You see the rising sun ensign fluttering next to the Australian white ensign. You see Japanese sailors drinking beers with Australian diggers in Mitchell Street. This is the ultimate victory of the Western system. We did not just defeat Imperial Japan militarily in 1945. We defeated the ideology. We rebuilt them. We welcomed them back into the community of nations. We turned a fascist adversary into a democratic powerhouse. And now, that investment is paying the ultimate dividend. The samurai spirit, the martial discipline, the technical excellence, the warrior ethos has been repurposed. It is no longer serving an emperor bent on conquest. It is serving the concept of a free and open Indo-Pacific. The fortress of democracy. China is trying to divide the Pacific. They use history as a weapon, constantly reminding Australia of World War II atrocities to try and drive a wedge between Canberra and Tokyo. It hasn't worked. In fact, it has backfired. The threat of modern authoritarianism has reminded Australia and Japan that they have more in common today than they have dividing them in the past. Darwin is no longer a vulnerable outpost at the end of the world. It is the fortress where the Asian and Western democracies meet. It is the southern node of the Great Wall of Containment. The Japanese destroyers patrolling the Arafura Sea are the steel guarantee that 1942 will never happen again. They are the samurai shield. And as long as that shield holds, the Pacific remains free. Thanks for watching Doctrine of War. Does the sight of a Japanese carrier in Darwin make you feel safer, or does history still sting? Let us know in the comments below. Stay sharp, stay realistic, and we'll see you in the next one.